Hi everybody, welcome back to Joe's RC Corner, and today we're going to be working on the Super Chipmunk. We're going to be mounting the wheel pants in preparation for getting the clear coats on the paint job. So that's why the aircraft is flipped upside down on its back. I want to go ahead and finish mounting the landing gear struts here with the inner straps. So that way everything is straight and level in regards to the wheels and the landing gear. That way when I start cutting these and lining them up on the ground, I'll know that they're even and nothing's going to change when I take them off and put them back on again. So we're going to get started on that, so stick with me. Okay guys, so what you can see here is we got the landing gear strut here, and I only have one strap holding it on right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drill in the other holes over here, and then I'm going to repeat it on the other side. That way I can get this fully seated into the groove here, ready to go. That way both landing gear will be straight and perpendicular to the wing. Once we have these perpendicular to the wing, when I try to fit the wheel pants on, I'll be able to ensure that the back end, they're both the same amount away from the ground because everything else will match. So that's what we're going to do next here. So I'm going to get my drill and we'll get started on that. So what I'm going to be using to do this is these metal straps that'll hold these in there nice and tight. And I like to use, it comes with these, comes with the flathead screws to go in there, but I don't really like using flathead screws on surfaces like this. So these ones I switched out with panhead Phillips, but I also use socket heads sometimes. So I might end up doing the same thing that we have here on this one, just so they all match. If I have enough of the Allen heads, I will use those, but I think I have more of these. So let's see if we can get the focus. There you go. So you can see here they're just little servo screws basically. They're wood screws, but they do the trick. They hold it in there nice and tight. So I'm going to see if I can find enough of those in my box O parts here. Okay. So now, as you can see, I have a set of 4 of them. That'll be for the next sets of the straps. What I like to do first, before I go at it with my drill, is my pin vise. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. So now I have my pin vise here. I'm going to focus. There we go. So I got my pin vise here, and we're going to use this to start the holes first. So I got to turn it a little bit towards me because I can't really see from this angle here. Make sure this is pushed in as far as it'll go for right now. It'll get pulled in a little bit more with the screws, but we want to get these somewhat lined up. Okay, so like I said, we went ahead and we put these screws in like this. With the metal straps, they're going to hold everything nice and tight on here. Nothing should move once the aircraft is down on its wheels. Before I just had them temporary. And remember, you're screwing into a hard piece of wood. You don't want to over tighten them. What happens is you'll either break the head or you'll cause damage to the wood and the threads, and they'll strip and pull right out, and you don't want that to happen either. So there's a little bit of wiggle in here, and that's because of the inside up in here. I'm going to have to touch up a little bit of paint on here. I hit it with the screwdriver a little bit as usual. But we'll be able to touch that up with a paintbrush. So we'll go ahead and we'll keep moving. We're going to go ahead and do the other side now. I'm going to do that one off camera because it's basically the same process as well. You use the pin vise, put the pilot holes, get the screws, screw them in, and good to go. So stay tuned, be right back, and then we'll have the aircraft flipped over on its wheels, and we'll be able to start looking at how we're going to mount the wheel pants onto the struts here. All right, be right back. Okay guys, so we have the aircraft sitting on its wheels, tail wheel and the two main. And now the next step is we're going to get these mounted on here so that they look really nice. Now I have a mark here, if you can see it. Focus, there we go. Something like right here, I have that mark. That is where the axle is going to be on this aircraft. So I want to be able to put the wheels on first, make sure I got my wheel collars on nice and tight before I put the wheel pant on. So to do that, I'm going to put a U-shape in here using my Dremel tool. And that U-shape will allow me to slide the wheel pant over the wheel and then tighten up the screws on the back side. That way I can remove the wheel pant anytime without taking this wheel off. So if anything happens to the wheel pant, no damage or scratch, need to be repainted, anything of that sort, I can go ahead and remove these without taking that wheel off. And it makes it a lot easier to get these wheel collars on there nice and tight, so you don't have to try to feed in between the wheel pant to try to get to that wheel collar to slide the wheel pant off with it. Because I know some people like to put drill a hole through and slide that over the axle with the wheel inside, and that works. This just seems to be, this was an easier way for me to do it in the long run over time. Let me get my Dremel tool out and we'll start putting the U-shape in there. Okay, so we got a little bit closer here on the what I'm going to be working on. So apologize for the mess of screws. I dumped out some stuff to take a look at what I had. Okay, but we're going to put we're going to use the small one because it's about the same size as the 5/32 wheel collar that I'm using on here. So we're going to turn that on. Okay, so what I'm running into on here, let me pull this a little bit closer so you can see what I'm seeing here, is the wheel pants. That didn't help, did it? The wheel pants here are a little bit narrower than the strut here itself. So what I think I'm going to have to do let me see. Might have to cut the strut, the axle just a little bit. Let's take a look here. Yeah, because the axle won't allow this to come back up straight against there, and it pushes against the wheel pan on the outside there. So yeah, okay. Let me open this up a little bit more though. Okay, so I went ahead and marked how much I'm going to have to remove off of here with the cutoff wheel, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I may need to do that off camera because it's going to be a little bit messy and a little loud. So I'll go ahead and I'll fast forward through this. Okay, so now that I got that trimmed up, I know this is a bad angle for you guys, so I'm going to try to turn this back around here. Bring it a little bit forward. Okay, so now that we got that trimmed up here, I'm going to go ahead and check this out, see if that fits over that. Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, so now we fit over. All right, so now I can mark where I need to put my holes and where I need to have this all leveled out. Make sure the wheels lined up right. Let's see here. So the wheel needs to go inward a little bit, so which is good. So that's where I wanted. Move that in. So we got to move the axle in just a smidge, or the inner wheel collar in just a little bit. About right there. Put that wheel on. Put the outer axle on. It still fits, perfect. We'll tighten that one up. Now these are just being tightened up temporarily. I will need to go back and put flat spots in there to hold them. But there we go. So it's looking good. We want them to be straight when they're up, when it's on step here. Okay, so when the aircraft is up on step, the wheel pant will need to be straight and level like this. So that's where we're going to be marking. So I'm going to get a stand to hold the tail up level. We'll be able to go ahead and level this out and mark it. So about right here and here. Okay, so now that I have marked where the landing gear struts actually go, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my screws, I'm going to drill the holes out right there. Right in the middle, actually. Should only need one set of these. So one. Okay, and to start with, to put the pilot holes in, I use my pin vise because I have more control over that than I do over my drill. And then we'll go back and do it with the, make a bigger hole with the drill. I'm going to use the wood screws here really quick just to hold it in place while I drill the other one and make sure that that next hole is in the right location. So we're going to go ahead and throw it back on right here, get it into position. That looks about right there. We're going to mark the hole with the pin vise where I need to continue the next drill hole. Okay. Now I have a mark here that I can start my drill in there. I'm going to drill the secondary hole here. I think I'm going to go ahead and use the wood screws, and once I put these screws through, I'm going to put a little bit of thin CA through the wood, and that'll actually harden those threads pretty good. We don't fly off of a grass field, so we shouldn't really have an issue. Grass field, I probably would be more comfortable with those blind nuts in there. But considering that we fly off of a paved runway, we might be okay with this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the threads here with the screw all the way through and back it all the way out. And I'm going to harden those threads there with the CA. One thing you got to be careful though, if you do it this way, is never over tighten them then, because it can pull those threads right out. But you know, I think considering that we're just flying off of a paved runway, never really off of grass, I think we should be pretty safe. So we'll let that go ahead and cure. Wipe off the excess so we don't have tons coming out all over the place. We'll let that cure. And while I'm at it, I'm going to take my alcohol spray and I'm going to wipe off the pen marks that I put on here because I don't want to leave that on there too long. It will stay on there. So let me get my alcohol spray here. We'll clean off the Sharpie. Okay. All right, so now let's see how this fits, and then we'll get the screws in place here. Now what we'll do is we'll just match the second wheel pant to this one so that they're both the same. Okay, so we got the wheel pants mounted. I had a little bit of issues, that's why I went off camera with it. Basically, I had to trim up the axles a little bit to make them make the wheel pants be able to go over the axle a little bit better. But we're all good to go. Now the screws are a little long. They are going into the wheels. I'm going to have to trim those up after I flip it over and take a look at it. But for all intents and purposes, these are completed. They're mounted. I'll be able to take them off and put them back on again once they're primed. Now I did not use the blind nuts. I didn't actually put enough wood in there to have the blind nuts grab enough of that plywood. So I went ahead and just used the regular wood screws. Like I said, we don't fly off of a grass runway, but a paved runway. So it shouldn't be much of an issue in regards to that. They are even, so we're good to go. Okay guys, so we're pretty much in the home stretch here on this. We got ahead and got these wheel pants mounted, but we did run into a little bit of issues. That's why the video didn't really show a lot of detail in regards to it. But I'll explain a little bit what happened. So I ended up putting plywood inside these wheel pants, but I didn't put a big enough piece to cover a large enough area, and that's my fault. So we weren't able to use the blind nuts and the 440 bolts. So I went ahead and used those wood screws. But since we operate off of a paved runway, it shouldn't be an issue. There shouldn't be any problems with these coming off. They're good and tight. They're solid. They're not going anywhere. I'm going to have to trim the screws that went through the wood. They are touching the tires ever so slightly. They still rotate. They're just rubbing on them. So I'm going to have to go ahead and fix that a little bit. But I can do that stuff off camera. It's basically just taking them out after I mark them, figure out where I need to trim those off with the Dremel tool, and then screw them back in. So not a big deal. You guys won't need to really see any of that part of it. Next week we will be doing the clear coat, finally. So I'm going to do some finalized, go over the thing one more time with some sandpaper, make sure everything is good and sanded. Do any touch-up that I need to do before we get to that stage. I did have a little bit of a ding on the front wing after the paint. I'm really disappointed in that, but I got it filled. I'm going to have to do a little bit of touch-up with the blue afterwards, sand it, and before I do the primer. So we'll get that fixed really quick. Let's see. I think that's about all I have for today. But I did want to get these wheel pants mounted for you guys and get that video posted. So it's looking good. I'm really happy with how this is coming out so far. And yeah, so there she is, guys. I'll see you on the next video. Keep building and keep flying and have fun, because that's what it's all about. Oh, also, really quick, a great shout out to RC Model Geeks. I'll put the link to their channel in the description. Great guys. I'm sure most of you have already subscribed to them. But Captain Rob there does really good work on some models. Right now he's building a DW Hobbies Storch, and it's looking beautiful. So make sure you go check out his channel as well. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there, and keep building, keep flying. it.